Hello, beautiful people. Forgive me for being so close to you. I have a baby napping in my lap, so I'm trying to be as quiet as possible. But we have a fun video today. I think so. I hope it will be. I'm going to be using my Q1 reads to build a D&D character. I came to this idea because I have a single player campaign called The Wolves of Langston. It's from Obvious Mimic. They do a lot of like solo campaigns that you can do, and I've had this one for a while. Ever since my D&D group expanded, I've had this because I've wanted to play D&D and didn't have anybody to play with, but then I never did. And so I thought it would be really fun to take my TBRs or my reading recaps and use them to kind of inform my game and how I'm playing the game. So the cool thing about this solo campaign, at least from what I can gather, is it does have a little bit of like a choose your own adventure vibe, because like obviously you're the DM and the player, and so you can't like know necessarily what's going on if you're going to be the player, but you need to be able to steer the game. So with that, they're doing more of like that choose your own adventure style situation or roles. And so I thought it would be fun to see how I could use my reading to kind of inform my gameplay and make it a little bit more fun for me. So initially the plan is to go ahead and create this D&D character for this campaign. And then for my next reads, I'll have to take a look at it. I haven't really looked at it yet, whether I'm going to do like monthly wrap-ups to kind of progress through the campaign, or if I will continue to do quarterly. But if you're interested in doing something similar, I did create a guide for how to use your completed books to kind of create your D&D character. I think I will alter it slightly in case you want to do it with like a TBR to build a D&D character, like to build your D&D character using the books you want to read for your TBR, and then once you complete them, build your character. That could be really fun too. So I will share that below. I'll probably do like a Google Doc or something like that you can go and grab it and do it along with me, because that could be really fun. So let's go ahead and pull up D&D Beyond. So I'm going to be using that to build the character, and then we'll go like step by step through how we're gonna build this character and go through our stats. I'm so excited. So first things first is character name. What you're gonna do to pick your character's name is you're gonna go to the first book that you read in Q1 or whatever quarter you're doing this in, and you're going to see what your rating was. If you gave it a 5-star rating, you're going to pick a name within the first 5 pages of the book. 4 within the first 4 pages of the book. 3 within the first 3 pages of the book. 2, 2, 1, 1. You get the picture here. Now this one is kind of hard because I don't have the physical book. I listen to it on audio, so I'm going to have to do a little finagling here, but that was The Everlasting by Alex E. Haro. I gave that 5 stars. If you're not familiar, it came out in 2025. I know it was pretty popular with people on BookTube, and one of the reasons that I decided to pick it up. It is a romance. It is a fantasy romance, but it's also like a Groundhog Day situation. So we have Sir Una Everlasting is this knight who is like a knight of Lawrence, Dominion's greatest hero. And then we have another character, Owen Mallory, who is a scholar who's studying Una, and he gets sent back to when Una's time was, and they keep doing like a time loop, and they're like entangled together, and you don't even know how many times like he's been going back and helping her to quote unquote save Dominion. I don't want to give anything away, but it is such a unique story. I do want to read more by Alex E. Haro because I really thoroughly enjoyed this. Okay, so I was able to grab a sample on Amazon since I don't have the physical book, which makes it a little hard because I'm looking at my phone and I don't know how the pages correlate, but I mean, I've got a couple things in here that I'm already looking at. So the first chapter is Una and the U. So I could go with Una. And I will say, like, you don't have to take, like, a name per se. It could also be, like, a name of a place. Because this is D&D. So the name doesn't have to be, like, a name. But, like, I would say any, like, proper nouns you could use for your name. If you want to do one name, if you want to do 2, 3. Okay. I think I'm going to go with, this sounds the best to me, in my opinion, Una Brigadan. Right? I feel like that sounds like a good name. Okay, so that's our first thing. Our next order of business in order to create our character is to choose a class. And this one is going to be fun. I gotta pull up my notes app. But I've broken up the classes into some prompts. And essentially, like I said, if you're building a TBR to get to a certain class, you could use these. But if you're like me and you're doing it based off books you already read, you can pick a class based on the prompts. They don't have to meet all of the prompts. It just has to meet one of them. So it gives you a little bit of leeway on here, because I still want you to have fun. I don't want you to have a character, and I don't want to have a character that I don't want to play. So each class has different prompts. So for Barbarian, we have a book that is under 200 pages, a book where there are multiple killings or maimings, and a book where someone gets like real angry. For the Bard, we have the book, a book that uses like mixed media or style, like different mixed media or styles of writing, a book where someone's singing, or there are like lyrics of songs, or a book where a song is mentioned. For the Cleric, we have the prompt. The first prompt is like there's a religion, whether it's real or fictional, that is like a central part of the story or is, you know, part of the world building. We've got a book about like mythology, whether it's like nonfiction or retelling, something like that, or a book where someone is a healer of some kind. I try to keep these vague because if you're also like reading a nonfiction, I'm hoping that like some of these prompts could work within a nonfiction, you know what I mean? For the Druid, we have that nature or weather play a part in the plot, that an animal is a central character, or that the moon is mentioned or is on the cover. Then for Fighter, we have, there's a sword on the cover of the book. There is some kind of fight sequence. It doesn't have to have a sword, but there is like a fighting sequence in the book. Or a character is like a knight or a sellsword. For the Monk, we have martial arts is featured in the book. Someone is doing something about meditation. Or there's actually a monk character in the book. For a Paladin, we have either a character who's trying to like uphold an oath or a promise. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like a paladin oath. They've got a promise they're trying to keep. I think that will work for a lot of different books. So it kind of gives more of that flexibility. We have a character that is a paladin. There's very few books where I feel like that falls into, but it's a possibility. Or there is the word divine on the cover. For the Ranger, we have the main character has a pet. There's either a bow and or an arrow on the cover, or there's a long shot. And you can take that literally or figuratively. For the Rogue, we have a character is a thief or an assassin. There's a big plot twist. So that can, you know, take that as you want. Or the title has the word shadow and or shadows, the plural version of it. For Sorcerer, we have magic is in the title. A character has a magical ability, or someone discovers an innate power or ability. So why those two are different is because I think if you discover like a talent, but it's not magic, we're still going to count that. So again, trying to give this a little bit more of a broad paintbrush, so we're not just doing like fantasy, you know what I mean? Next is warlock. So we have the main character answers to someone. So this could be they are working, they have a boss, they have a higher power they're answering to. There's a king, there's a parent, something like that. Someone who's got more authority than them that they are answering to. We have a possession, possessed by some kind of entity. Now I could say that it could be like in a sci-fi way where it's like a chip, you know, if they're a robot, but a typical possession, like demonic kind of possession situation or something like that. And then the occult is mentioned in the book. And the final one is wizard. So for this one, the book is 400 plus pages long. There's some magic involved in the plot. Or we have someone who is learning or studying, magic or otherwise. Those are all the prompts. You're going to use your second book for this. My second book is Space Vampire by Ruby Dixon. It is kind of how it sounds. I gave it 3 stars. We have a character who is on a ship, an alien ship, and she's from Earth, and she is a pet, quote unquote, to this alien who's like the captain of the ship or something like that. They are creating this creature, I forget for what, but essentially the creature is like a vampire, and they end up evacuating the ship and leaving her, and her and the vampire start interacting. It is like a silly vampire romance situation. It was funny. I had a good time. Let's see. I could do a warlock because our character is like a pet who's been kept, and the vampire has kind of been kept as well. So they could be a warlock. I really feel like the vibes of Space Vampire is barbarian. So I think we're gonna have to go with barbarian. And I've never played a barbarian, so it could be fun to be like by myself playing a barbarian, so I'm just like raging through. So I think that could be kind of fun. So Una Brigadin is going to be a barbarian. Okay, so background is going to be more of a art rather than a science. So you'll see we have a bunch of different options on here, and you're basically going to look at the options, and if you have a character or person in the book that you read that kind of fits that background, you're gonna go ahead and fit it. You're gonna take your third book, which mine is Dating After the End of the World by Geneva Rose, which is a zombie romance, like a zombie apocalypse romance, and it really is that. It follows like the romance tropes, and it is very much a zombie book though. Like, if you are not a fan of gore and killing and zombies, I would also not recommend this book. But it is a romance. I gave it 4 stars, and I knocked it off a star because I did really have a good time, but the romance itself was kind of like a former bully romance. And I mean, she tried to like work through how we got there, but I don't know. I have a hard time with it. Now, I think, really thinking about this one, we have a soldier, a character who is a former soldier, and I feel like that is going to fit with a barbarian. So we're going to choose a soldier. Species is another simple one. We're basically looking at the species. We're going to look at our 4th book that we've read for this quarter and gonna pick a species that's within the book. I will say, if you read a book that is contemporary, lit fic, it's a nonfiction, something like that, you're gonna be a human. It just is what it is, because that's where we're at. Okay, so our 4th book that I read in Q1 was A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is basically like Peaky Blinders with elemental magic. Unfortunately for me, Well, or fortunately, whatever. You know, we don't get to be as exciting. But there are no other creatures in this book, so we're going human. But humans are pretty versatile in D&D, so, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so let's talk about abilities. There are 6 abilities in D&D, and how you're going to do this is you're going to look at your quarter genres. And you're going to use how many you read in each genre to determine the number of points that you have in each ability. I'm going to do a point buying system to make this easier. I have 27 points in total here. So for strength, books you're going to use for strength. This one was probably the hardest to figure out, but I've really decided here that those books are going to be fantasy. We got fighting, we got swords, we got stuff like that. So fantasy, anything action oriented. So I'll say, like, if you've got a war book, historical fiction that's set in war, anything that's gonna have like fighting, you can use that for strength points. I know that's a little vague, but this one was super hard to figure out. So yes, so fantasy, again, you could do like a historical if it's like a war-based one. If you've got a non-fiction that's based in war, anything like that, you can count as a strength. Dexterity. For dexterity goes a lot with like rogues and things like that. So for this, I decided mysteries and thrillers will give you dexterity. Easy enough. Constitution. So for constitution, I'm gonna say thrillers and horrors will give you constitution. Intelligence. Got your nonfictions. Sorry. You go back to sleep. Sorry. Go back to sleep. Mommy's sorry. Mommy will be quiet. Alright, so baby's awake, so that'll change things, kind of. Constitution, thriller, horror. Then we have intelligence. Intelligence, we're gonna do our science fictions. We're going to do our nonfictions. Is that it? Yes, so intelligence is science fiction and nonfiction. Wisdom. Wisdom, we've got our literary fictions / contemporaries and speculative fiction. And finally, we have charisma. Charisma is going to be your romance, and we'll count romantasy as well, although I will kind of let you play with that as you will. So if it's a fantasy and you need more strength, go with fantasy. If it's got a fantasy romance and you need a little more charisma, go with romance. And really that's with all of these. Obviously most genres, most books have like multiple genres in them, so take this as your guidelines. And I will say, if there is a genre that I haven't really fit in there, I would say go for what you think makes the most sense. So, you know, trust your gut on here. So I'm gonna say this, like, there are 27 points, so unless you read 27 books, you will get some extra points, so you can kind of use that to like fix it. I only have 10 books that I read, so obviously I don't have 27 points. So we're gonna use what we can. So because I am a barbarian, ultimately we are looking to get more in constitution and strength, because that is how I am attacking. So that is how I can succeed. So with that, let's see how I can go ahead and get this done. We are running out of battery, so we've got to hurry this up. Okay, for strength, we've got 2 fantasies. So that's 2 points for strength, right? Yes. So we've got 2 points for strength, and that's for the Everlasting and a Forbidden Alchemy. For Space Vampire, that's either a romance or a sci-fi. We're gonna go charisma, because you really don't need a smart a smart barbarian, not useful. So I'm gonna put a point in charisma for that. Okay, and so dating after the end of the world. It is a horror romance, I'm gonna say. So we're actually putting that point in Constitution because it is zombie apocalypse meets romance, and it's pretty violent. So I'm gonna go like horror romance. A book I haven't talked about yet is The Faint of Heart. It was a graphic novel that I read. I gave it 4 stars. It is kind of a speculative fiction about a society where they figured out, it can also be considered a science fiction, I think, too. But they figured out how to remove your heart so you wouldn't have to like experience tough emotions. But there's one girl who doesn't want to lose her heart, and she finds like a random heart. One is definitely speculative fiction, so I'm gonna put it in wisdom. The book I read is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and that is just a contemporary romance. So we're gonna add a point to charisma for that one. So the next book I read was actually a nonfiction, and it really was a nonfiction. I can't work it anyways. We're getting a point of intelligence. Crazy. And that book was Boy Mom by Ruth Whitman. I recommend for any boy moms out there who are trying to figure out how to raise their sons in this crazy internet world that isolates young boys. So, and how to help them have very full lives and not succumb to this loneliness and all of the manosphere stuff. So definitely check that book out. It was really good. I heard about it, I think, on Offline through Pod Save America, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, If We Survive This is a YA horror. It's another zombie book. So I'm actually going to put that in Constitution. This is actually an arc that I got. It's been out for a while though. It's by Rachel Marie, and it is a YA zombie apocalypse horror. And it is our female main character is with her brother. Her brother has been healing from an injury, and their dad left a while ago, and she knows that they need to move on. So they have a plan to move on and go to this cabin that their family always used to stay at. And in it, they end up finding 2 other survivors who are their age, and they go on this journey to get to the cabin. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you about it. I gave that 4 stars. Okay, our next book is An Unexpected Peril, and that is the 6th book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I gave that 3.75 stars. This one, Veronica is impersonating a foreign princess who she happens to look like, to try to figure out, because she like leaves and then there's a murder and they're trying to figure out who it does, as usual in Veronica Speedwell. So that is a historical romance, mystery romance, I would say. Really historical mystery with like a subplot of romance. I'm gonna go with mystery, and so we're gonna put that in Dex. So that's 1 point in Dex. Okay. The last book that we read here in our first quarter of 2026 was Project Hail Mary, which is a sci-fi through and through. So that's another point in intelligence. We're gonna be a smarter barbarian than you think. We have made our character sheet. I do have to come up with what Una is gonna look like. I think I may base her off of Una Everlasting from the book, since that's where we got her namesake from. But you'll see we have our different ability scores here. So will I be a decent barbarian? We shall see. I've never been a barbarian, so we will try. And just to review here, to give you that synopsis, we'll actually do a quick review of our reads now. So, as I mentioned, I read 10 books, quite a few 5 stars. I think that was 3 5 stars, 2 4 stars. Yeah, we had 3 5 stars, 4 4 stars, a 3.75, and 2 3 stars, or 3 3 stars. I forgot to rate, first time caller. So overall, we've been doing pretty well. Like going into this year, it's been a much better reading experience than last year. Last year was pretty terrible. So pretty happy with Q1. and very excited to go on this D&D journey with you. Like I said, I am going to go ahead and put all of this information into some Google Docs. So if you want to join me in building out a D&D character with your Q1 stats, you can go ahead and do so. And please share with me. I'd love to hear how your characters end up and what their names are and all that kind of stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, do all of that great stuff. And until next time, I hope you read a good book. I hope you find some joy, and most importantly, I hope you do something to make the world a better place. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!